Outer Orange.
Today we are talking about Lyle Odium. Now this has, I made a poll recently about like kind of what decks I should talk about, and over the course of time I kind of end up putting Odium down just because we want to talk about love address. But today we're gonna talk about Odium. This is a pretty impactful deck. We don't have the Shenri clone right now, which is like a grade 1 that basically does the same thing that Shenri does in Dragon Empire, but for dark states. Today I'm gonna present a list that doesn't run the Shenri clone, but I took inspiration from another list that basically did really well. So we're gonna go ahead and kind of talk about it today. All right, fam, this is my deck log, but first I'm gonna shout out the person that did pretty well with this. This is their version of the deck. I changed it just slightly. I added just a couple different cards. They're running this grade 2 that gets power when something's placed with a gauge. They're not running Twin Cast and I am, but I wanted to just let you guys know I took inspiration from this deck, which is Next Gate 0025. So check them out if you want to try out this exact list. They just recently posted about it and they have their whole thing right here. But anyway, so like I said, not a Shenri list, and that's actually why I really like it, because we don't have Shenri right now. And let's go ahead and talk about it. So this is Odium. I am using JP Decklog right now. We don't have the actual English cards yet out. Obviously we're like about a week out, so getting it pretty soon. But this is basically the ride line here, and then we have the actual deck down here. So let's go ahead and break down what this deck is doing. So first you have the grade 1, which is basically just your crest maker. It's the thing that gets you the destiny wings, which is like the token that you need to be able to gauge. That's basically all this card does. And then the really impactful card is actually this one. This is the one that lets you draw a ton. It says when this unit enters the field by riding the grade 1, you basically place 2 cards from hand. You place a card from hand face up into the gauge and draw 2. This is really good because you're basically plussing 1 while also upping your gauge. And then we have Lyle herself, which is the new Odium. And she has quite a few effects. So she says during your turn, for each timestamp gauge you have, your front row gets plus 5k, which does, stack quite a bit. And then when she attacks, you can pay the cost. You can so bust one, choose a card from your graveyard or hand, place it face up as a part of your timestamp gauge. If you do, she gets triple damage tribe. This is like very easy to accomplish, honestly, over and over again. And she has a divine skill, which is kind of where her big impact is. At the end of the battle in which she attacked, you can, if you have basically 5 gauges, you can discard cards from hand. You get an additional turn, but you instantly go into the battle. You lose a drive, and then you don't go into ride phase or main phase. You just instantly skip all that and just go to battle phase. And that sounds kind of bad, but you have some cards that kind of work with the synergy of this, so it works out. Anyway, so that's basically the main ride line. Your grade 0 can be whatever you want to be, by the way, but this is the main core of the deck. You obviously want Persona, but the real impact here is we want to talk about this new grade 3. He's really good. It's a 5 guy. So this one in the gauge though says the beginning of your battle phase, so you usually want to do something divine. If there's a card in if he is in the gauge, you can pay the cost. You can counterblast, choose a card from the drop zone, place it face up into the gauge, and if you do, you can call him out. So basically you gauge and then replace him with that gauge, and he basically brings himself out, which is really good because you still keep the 5, which is very important. And then when this unit attacks a Vanguard, if your Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, with Lyle, its card name, he gets plus 5k. And then if you have 3 street gauges, you can also energy blast 2, choose Vanguards and retire it. This is very important because you can do this kind of over and over, and you just keep retiring your opponent's board, which can matter. People are like hostage packages, and they try to basically like go around. They try to keep a board as much as possible, and you can kind of spam this guy and other cards and kind of just deny that board. That's him. The other impactful card is this grade 2 right here. He's actually pretty strong. You could probably run him at 4 if you want. But this is one is placed. If you have a gauge, you can counterblast, draw a card, and you can choose. You can still charge. I don't remember if it's mandatory. I think it is. And then if you have 3 or more timestamp gauges, it gets boost. This is very important depending on where you place him. You can kind of set up for annoying numbers, because the 10k in the back row can be very annoying. Makes really good numbers like that. So it's a 3 attack deck realistically, but it's a really strong 3 attack deck. I run the doll. I actually really like the doll. This basically says you could shove something to soul in it for whatever grade it is. She gets plus 5k power. Shove like a 2 or a 3, she gets 10, 15, and she can stack as well. Like you can do it multiple times, not in this deck, but you can normally do it multiple times. So she just gets really strong. Her setting effect doesn't go off. It's really her first effect you care about. She has a good beat stick, and I actually really appreciate the beat stick. I really, really like this card. It's really played in Jet a lot, but I like it in here as well. It's just a really good card. Got the Cycler. I think 2 Cycler is just too much Cyclers, and I actually am very behind just having 1 Cycler. Also, I've seen decks just run so many grade 2s, and I'm like, why are you running that many grade 2s? You really don't need to. So we're running the Entry Cycler, which is just, in my opinion, is a really good card. She just lets you, so she lets you draw, and then she also soul charge you and become also a booster and become a 15k booster. So she's just really good overall. So if you want to play her first effect or second effect, whichever one I feel like fits with the deck, Run this guy. So this is a little bit of newer cards. I think these cards are a little bit slept on. I feel like when these came out, people didn't really care about them too much when they got revealed. First of all, these are coming out in set 5, and every single nation, I believe, is getting some of these. So this one says if you have no cards in your G-Zone, so G-Zone effects can't activate. So the G-Zone decks can't use it, but it gets all the following. From hand, if you have a grade 3 or higher Vanguard, you can discard this card, place a total of 2 cards from your soul or deck, or drop that you had that been in your right deck face up, and you can look at top 7 cards of your deck, choose your Vanguard up to 1 grade 3 or higher card with a different name, reveal it, and add to your hand. Shuffle your deck. If you not reveal, you can add this card to your hand. Basically, if you whiff and choose not to reveal anything, you add the card back to your hand. So that's pretty cool because you can do it again. And then when this unit is placed on guard circle, if you have 4 or more cards in your soul, this unit gets plus 5k shield at the end of the battle. And if your opponent has a card with a G-Zone in there, you can also bind a grade 3 or greater a higher card from your soul or drop. This unit gets plus 10k shield. So basically into G-Zone decks, you have a little bit more recovery. And also it lets you search and find stuff. So I think it's just a really useful card, especially since all you're really doing is just messing with your right deck. You're not really hurting, you're not really denying yourself anything. Like, it's just a really good value engine. You could find your orders, whatever it is. I can't remember if it's restricted to not being able to find orders or not. Just as grade 3 or higher, grade 1, grade 3 or higher. So yeah, I think you can find, you'll be able to find the order. You'll be able to find the order this way. So I think it's very important since this deck is very reliant on this order. And then we have the order searcher. This is basically just card to card, search the order, play it. Very important card. It's very impactful right now because it's just very needed in this deck. This deck doesn't function without it. We got the gunning ram as well to kind of help us soul charge through the deck and soul pass and draw. Basically, you just want to be able to go through your deck a little bit more. Not the biggest fan of this card. I'm kind of 50-50 on it, but I don't hate it right now. So I'm kind of enjoying it, but I'm not loving it, type of thing. Anyway, we have this guy. This is like the kind of the meat and bones that's keeping the deck together. You basically want to play this, and you can soul charge and put this card face up with your gauge. So it basically accelerates your gauge, and then when this card is placed as your gauge, you can draw one, choose my Vanguard to get plus 10k power. So your Vanguard gets bigger. She also gauges herself, so that's really important. So basically, that amplifies your gauge. And I run Twin Cast. You don't need to run Twin Cast. You can just run another card. You can run a doll. You can run a different Regalia piece. I'm just trying out the Twin Cast right now. You can also run the card from like the trial deck, that Regalia piece. If you want, you can just run whatever you want. And after that, we have Perfect Guards, and that's basically the deck. It's a crit front deck. You draw a lot. You don't really need to run the draw triggers. And then I do want to talk about Elementarius Sanctitude. A lot of people have been switching over to the Sanctitude, specifically this one, not the other one. And people are like, well, why? Well, because if you're facing your opponent who has an energy crest, you just choose one unit that can't be hit until end of turn and the end of battle. Who has a card on the energy crest. It's basically just good into Stride decks, and a lot of people just are expecting to see Stride decks. It's pretty useful. Doesn't really go around triple drive, but if they just have a crest in general, it like just works. So just keep in mind you can use it at any point instead of having to use it only on the grade 4 turn. So with Jet in mind, if they're going back down, you can actually still sync without having to discard a card, which can be impactful. So long story short, Sync was already basically used into Stride decks. Now you can just use this one to kind of give yourself a bit more safety. However, either one works, and if you think there's going to be a grade format, like a heavy grade format, you can always go back to the old Sync, but I think either one is actually pretty viable. Some people thought the first one was way more impactful, but actually a lot of people have been swapping over to this one. And then that's basically the deck. The combo of the deck is basically you want to just kind of use this grade 2 and grade 1 and grade 3 kind of as much as possible. Try to get them as engages as early as possible to be able to kind of spam that way. Apply pressure, basically make the best numbers you possibly can, because you are a 3 attack deck. Unless you divine, then you're a 5 attack deck or a 4 attack deck, but then you can go back down to a 3 attack deck. So you basically just want to apply pressure as much as possible as you go through the game, and then be able to close out. The ride line is just really good. It's a very Gear Chronicle-esque ride line. It feels like a Gear Chronicle ride line. The Gear Chronicle has always been good about drawing cards early on, and this is basically what this ride line does. It just draws quite a bit. So yeah, having an extra turn and being able to pop off and kind of killing your opponent, applying pressure all the time is kind of the deck's like go-to, like its purpose. I will say going second, what I've noticed so far, it's felt a little rough. I will say this is not my favorite deck in this set right now. It kind of was at first. I was like, this deck's kind of saucy, but the more I've been testing it, the more I've been finding kind of other decks that I would prefer to play. But I will say, if you're trying to avoid mirrors or trying to avoid less mayhem between Razeo and Levodress, I would not a bad option as like one of the 5 to 10 decks to pick from in the format that are like really impactful. I would say between this and like Luard and a couple other decks, I think they're all kind of like on a similar spectrum. I think Luard's a little bit better, but long story short, I think this deck's really fun. I think it's really cool. It's coming out soon. It's a little expensive, I would say. I think for what it is, I think once we get Sheddery, this deck will get even better. And then I think in the future, if you're looking for like future ahead, I think this deck is really close to being like insane. and we'll have to just kind of see how gentle they are going to be with this deck or how aggressive they're going to be with it. It's possible they might print like one card that just might completely break this deck and ban it. I don't know. It could happen because this deck is definitely in that area where it could randomly get like insane. A big shout out to this person who also has a list without the Shenry stuff, so you can try it out as well. So yeah, other than that, guys, you guys that shop OuterOrange if you need new goodies. We do have set 5 right around the corner actually, and it's gonna be very exciting because it's gonna be a completely new format. It's very different from JP because we are getting deck sets for the strides after this stuff comes out. So for those of you guys out there that are interested in a different format, we will be in a little bit of a different format. It's gonna be really cool. But that, guys, when you guys that shop, like I said, OuterOrange if you need your goodies, if you need anything, if you're looking for stuff, you can use my code to save yourself some money. There's a lot of Black Friday deals. He might even be doing more, so check all that out. On that, guys, peace out. Das Vidania. See you guys in a future video. Bye!
That's nice.